Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tracing the absolutely wild evolution of Michael Jackson. We're going to map out a journey that starts in a gritty, working-class steel town and skyrockets into a level of unprecedented global autonomy. This isn't just a basic biography. We're zeroing in on a very specific shift, how a heavily restricted child prodigy completely flipped the script to become a fiercely independent adult engineering his own empire. Let's get right into it.
Think about it for a second. How exactly does a 6-year-old lead singer evolve into literally the most culturally significant entertainer of the 20th century? We're going to explore how the intense constraints of his early childhood actually built the exact foundation for his massive solo creative explosion later on. Almost everything he became as an adult was a direct, calculated response to how he was raised.
So here's the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll kick things off with his time as the boy prodigy, move into the Motown machine, see how he finally broke that bubblegum mold, dive into the absolute phenomenon that was Thriller, and wrap up with his lasting global legacy. Starting right off with Section 1, the boy prodigy. To really appreciate his ultimate peak, living on those sprawling multi-million-dollar ranches, we actually have to go back to a tiny 2-bedroom home in Gary, Indiana. He was the 8th of 10 kids. His dad ran a crane at U.S. Steel, and his mom worked part-time at Sears. But his real forging ground wasn't a steel mill. It was the Chitlin Circuit. Long before he even hit double digits, he was rigorously performing in grueling cocktail lounges and even clubs that featured stripteases. The demands on him were just immense right from the start.
But man, despite that exhausting schedule for a kid, you couldn't deny the raw talent. Rolling Stone later called him a prodigy with overwhelming musical gifts. It didn't take long at all for him to just eclipse the older performers and take over as the lead singer of the Jackson 5 by late 1965.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Motown machine.
So all that grassroots grinding inevitably caught the eye of the biggest star-making factory in the industry. And the ascent? It was blindingly fast. They dropped their first single on Steeltown Records in '68, signed to Motown with a massive TV debut in '69, and then, boom, 1970 hits. Their first 4 singles, including absolute classics like I Want You Back and ABC, shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
But here's the catch. This success was totally a double-edged sword. Sure, they were on top of the world, but Motown essentially operated like an uncompromising production line. They flat out refused to give the group any real creative input. For a growing prodigy like Michael, that sparked a deep, burning frustration, and that frustration would basically dictate his entire next move.
Moving on to Section 3, breaking the bubblegum mold. That intense childhood restriction directly caused his pivotal transition in 1975 over to Epic Records. This is where the true metamorphosis really kicks in. In the Motown era, he was, a constrained teen idol churning out bubblegum pop as a child employee. But at Epic, he grabs creative control. He becomes the main songwriter, penning hits like Shake Your Body, and trades the bubblegum for these rich, complex, layered sounds. He basically transitions into a creatively autonomous adult. And to prove just how shrewd his business acumen had become, he didn't just stop at creative control. He wanted the financial reins, too. In 1980, he walked in and secured an unprecedented 37% wholesale album royalty rate. 37%. That was literally the highest in the entire music industry at the time. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was an absolute force in the boardroom. But this is where his psychology gets really fascinating. His first adult solo album, Off the Wall, produced 4 top 10 hits, won a Grammy, and sold over 20 million copies worldwide. Massive success, right? Well, he was actually incredibly disappointed. He felt it should have done more. He absolutely refused to be second best, which begs the question, how on earth do you top a 20 million selling album?
That brings us to Section 4, the Thriller phenomenon.
His fierce determination to completely obliterate expectations culminated in this number right here, 47 million. That's how many viewers tuned in to watch the Motown 25 television special in March of 1983. He had finally negotiated a solo spot on his own terms, and he was about to show the entire world exactly what total creative autonomy looked like. It was during his solo performance of Billie Jean that he dropped the moonwalk on us. Wearing that single rhinestone-studded glove, he created this mesmerizing illusion of just gliding backward across the stage. Now, fun fact, he didn't actually invent the move. It was originally a street dance known as the backslide, but he perfected it for a global audience. It was so phenomenal that even Motown founder Berry Gordy The guy whose restrictive system Michael had to escape from admitted he was just blown away.
From there, he systematically built an absolute empire. Step 1, drops Thriller, which shatters every record to become the best-selling album in history. Step 2, leverage that power to secure groundbreaking contracts, including buying up the massive ATV music catalog. And Step 3, in 1988, he dropped $17 million on the 2,700-acre Neverland Ranch, complete with its own Ferris wheel and zoo. Think back to that tiny two-bedroom house in Gary. He had successfully engineered a new reality where he controlled absolutely everything.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, a lasting global legacy.
So, what did this crazy shift from a strictly controlled child prodigy to a global powerhouse actually mean for the rest of us? Well, beyond the staggering sales, he fundamentally altered modern entertainment. I mean, he shattered American racial barriers on MTV, forcing them to pivot from just album-oriented rock to pop and R&B. He took street dances like the robot and the moonwalk and made them global phenomena. He didn't just shoot promotional clips. He turned music videos into high art with cinematic short films like Beat It and Thriller. Plus, he used his massive platform to call out injustice with songs like Black or White, all while funneling millions into charities and the United Negro College Fund.
The metamorphosis was complete. But it leaves us with this final, really profound question. When a child star systematically engineers their own total artistic and financial freedom, breaking literally every boundary set before them, does their legacy ultimately belong to them or to the world they so drastically changed? Take a second to think about the ultimate triumph and the staggering scale of becoming the king of pop. Thanks for hanging out with us for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.